Police officers have a tough job. Sometimes their work feels like a horror movie because they deal with incredible and unbelievable cases. Officers often have to think quickly to solve strange and unusual situations. It could be anything from a silly prank call to a hostage crisis, and they must be ready for any challenge. Even after solving the hardest cases, every police officer knows that there are probably even more unbelievable stories out there. The police were completely baffled by how this old ship suddenly appeared on a beach in the Bahamas. It was supposed to have sunk in the Bermuda Triangle 90 years ago, but there was no sign it had ever been underwater. Everything about this ship was a mystery to the cops, at least until they got inside. What they found below the deck made everything clear to them. The police were very careful when exploring the ship. If something is moved or tampered with, the chain of evidence and criminal investigation could be disturbed. The best thing was to just leave for now and wait for the detectives, but they were hearing sounds that simply had to be checked out. As they were searching, they eventually managed to pin down the room where the noise was coming from. When the first officer saw what was inside the room, he nearly dropped his weapon out of pure shock. How was this even possible? How had this old ship made its way to a Bahama beach? What did the police find inside, and how did it shock them so much? The first visitors on the Bahama beach stared at the sea in disbelief. The size and condition of the vessel amazed them, as if it had been untouched for decades. This mysterious event sparked curiosity about how the ship suddenly appeared. None of them had ever seen anything like it before. The police rushed towards the beach with sirens blaring, but were stopped by the crowd also heading there. With reinforcements, they moved the crowd away, emphasizing safety and the beach's unsuitability for recreation. Unsure if the ship was a threat or a lost passenger, the police blocked roads and issued a curfew to keep people away. Tourists had started climbing the ship, with some already walking on it. An officer used a megaphone to order everyone off, threatening arrest. Some ignored the warning and tried to board the ship. Despite complaints, the police had to enforce restrictions for safety until they understood the ship. The warning worked as people began to leave the beach, and those on the ship jumped into the sea and swam ashore. However, the officers couldn't confirm that everyone had complied. Some people still did not follow proper instructions. When most people had left the beach, the chopper started to descend. However, many remained at the edge of the sand, unable to contain their curiosity. The chopper's descent blasted sand into their faces unexpectedly. As the cops boarded the ship, the crowd watched in amazement. The officers noted the rusty hull, but were also impressed by how well kept the boat seemed. How could this trawler remain in such pristine condition for so long? It looked like a time capsule or a remnant from a bygone era. Was it from East Germany or related to a past fishing trip? The mystery of the old boat was just beginning, and none of the officers wanted to make the first move. The ship, a true time capsule, revealed a forgotten part of history and begged to be solved. They aimed to determine the vessel's true identity and history. It appeared to have been used for transporting passengers, which helped them narrow down its origins. Only a few companies had passenger ships of this size, and there were even fewer decades ago. The police tracked down the ship's registration numbers and identifying features from past records, investigating any companies that might have owned it. They examined photos to understand its travels and passengers. By comparing it to other ships, they found the original ship's location more easily. They also checked the port of origin information and maintenance records to determine the ship's history. While some officers inspected the ship, one made calls to identify it. They confirmed it was an old passenger ship, supposedly sunk 90 years ago in the Bermuda Triangle. The police were stunned, having heard many stories of ships disappearing in the Triangle. They realized a full investigation was needed to solve this puzzle. The Bermuda Triangle, or Devil's Triangle, is in the northwestern Atlantic Ocean between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. Known for unexplained disappearances and paranormal phenomena, its legend started in the 1950s with reports of ships and planes vanishing without a trace. Theories range from powerful ocean currents to aliens, while others blame natural disasters like hurricanes and rogue waves. But whatever the cause may be, the Bermuda Triangle continues to fascinate and capture the attention of people all around the world. The mystery surrounding the Bermuda Triangle only adds to its allure, as it has intrigued people for years and sparked the imaginations of those who ponder its secrets. It has inspired movies, books, and documentaries, offering a constant source of entertainment. In some ways, this mysterious triangular region of the Atlantic serves as an example of how people are fascinated by the unknown. reminding us of the world's magnificence and power. Stories around the phenomenon of the Bermuda Triangle and its secrets have been passed down through generations, adding to its legend and mystery. Numerous vessels and aircraft have disappeared from its dangerous waters without a trace, and many theories have been put forward to explain the disappearances. One of the most iconic and mysterious stories about the Bermuda Triangle occurred on December 5, 1945, when a group of 5 U.S. Navy torpedo bombers known as Flight 19 set out for a training mission but mysteriously disappeared without a trace. The planes were led by Lieutenant Charles Taylor, and the other members of the crew were Lieutenant Robert Cox, Ensign George Jones, Ensign Earl Koenig, and 4 other enlisted men. Neither the planes nor any remains of the crew were ever found. Conspiracy theories suggest the planes may have encountered some kind of supernatural event which caused them to vanish, but no definitive explanation has been given. Theories about what happened to Flight 19 have ranged from freak weather conditions that caused a mysterious spatial displacement to alien abduction to a rift in the fabric of time created by the area's powerful electromagnetic forces. Some speculation has included a possible entry into another dimension, a sudden and powerful magnetic force capable of destroying the aircraft, and even a secret military experiment gone wrong. More recently, some have postulated that the planes were attacked by a UFO or perhaps intercepted by a rogue military operation. Whatever the true cause of the occurrences, the legend of Flight 19 remains one of the most enduring mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle. In January of 1948, a luxurious British South American Airways Avro Tudor 4-passenger airliner known as Star Tiger disappeared mysteriously en route to Bermuda. The plane was carrying 25 passengers and crew and was reported to have vanished somewhere within the curve of the so-called Devil's Triangle. Theories regarding the disappearance include a possible instrument malfunction which caused the plane to fly off course and crash. It was also suggested that there might have been a mid-air explosion or the sudden appearance of a powerful electromagnetic field which disabled the craft's navigational systems. In March 1918, the U.S. Cyclops, a 542-foot-long cargo ship with a crew of 306, disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle while traveling from the Caribbean to Baltimore, Maryland. The ship had refueled in Barbados and sent out an SOS signal on March 3rd before vanishing. What makes this disappearance mysterious is that the ship had made successful trips through the area before without any problems. Despite extensive searches, the wreckage of the U.S. Cyclops has never been found, making it one of the biggest mysteries of the Bermuda Triangle. The officer looked at the ship again and sent a picture to the expert who provided the strange information. This did not look like a ship that had been on the seafloor for 90 years. It was impossible for a 90-year-old ship to be in such good condition. What made it even more puzzling was that no one had been found on board steering it all these years. Surprisingly, when they took a closer look, the officers saw that all the external components were still intact and weathered, but otherwise in surprisingly good condition. But when they tried to explore more, they quickly noticed something strange. They could easily walk around on all the upper floors, but all the entrances to the lower deck were closed off. The police officers were aware that someone or something else could be on the ship with them. Most of the doors to the lower deck were in much better condition than the rest of the ship and were sealed off very well. After a few moments of debating, the officers decided to prepare for the worst. They felt that whatever was inside was far worse than they could handle, but they sensed there was already something inside. The officers began to question what they were up against. They drew their weapons and stood guard. Alert to any sudden movement, the officers slowly started to inch closer to the door until one of them stepped forward and knocked. They waited for an answer in silence, the only sound being the eerie creak of the ship. When they finally made their way inside, they discovered that the boat had been transformed into a very nice home. The officers were surprised to find that the small boat had been completely refurbished to look like a normal house. The walls were freshly painted with neutral-toned colors, and modern furniture was arranged neatly. The officers exclaimed and marveled at the sight before them. It was definitely a functional living space, complete with comfortable bedding, footstools, and a cozy armchair placed by a window overlooking the sea. There was even a separate dining room furnished with an antique-style table and chairs. As it turned out, the ship had never sunk in the first place. The captain had hidden the boat on a small island where he wanted to start living. The boat had gotten dislodged from the island and floated along with the current to this beach.